Hello and welcome to our today's program. Thank you so much again for joining us. I have to apologize for we missed our live recording on Saturday, which was yesterday, and we've been having challenge with our power, and but well, we are here. So how is everyone? Wherever it is that you are from, wherever it is that you are at, how are you doing? How are the children? How is mommy? How is daddy? How is everyone doing? Thank you so much for joining us. And um, as we said, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel at Mama Africa One to get more of what has been happening over the week. And here we are for today's program. So thank you so much for joining us. Out of our program for last week, our live recording for last week, I got an inbox message from a concerned parent who was feeling like he's feeling defeated on the on disciplining of his children. And sometimes it's normal. Parents, sometimes we feel like when we cannot do it the way we think we should do it, sometimes we feel like we are getting defeated or frustrated. But as I always say, parenting is not like written on a book that we got to say that this is how it should and must be done. As I said, it's diverse, it's different, it's different from one parent to another, from one family to another. But what we must agree that in recent past, a lot of stuff have changed, some for good and some for bad, in many areas of and aspects of life, and including parenting. And the world has almost emerged to one. Cultures and traditions have changed and are changing. There has been a lot of interracial unions, and out of this, we brought up children who cannot be brought up the way we as millennials were brought up. Okay, and on our previous program and session on communication, I said we want to base most of our sessions and most of our programs on parenting in the 21st century. And on that, we say that the parents parenting right now are in the millennial bracket, right? And so we have ways in which we were brought up differently. And on today's topic, this particular parent wanted me to talk about discipline and indiscipline, and indiscipline in children and how to deal with it. And so I told him we could have one-to-one session, but he said yes, we had some talk and we had some chat, but he said maybe I'm not the only one. There are so many people who could be going through the same the same challenge. And it's really, I agree that it is challenging, because this is a wide topic. Discipline and indiscipline in children is a wide topic, just as communication is. And communication and discipline, they go hand to hand, all right? And so we cannot say that you'll talk about the other and leave the other. It's the same, because for us to handle indiscipline cases, we must have communicated. And so this is a wide topic, and we will be breaking it into pieces as we continue with our sessions. And so I wanted, as he requested, that we talk about the pros and the cons of inflicting punishment on children as a form of dealing with indiscipline. All right? And so today, that is what we want to talk about, the pros and the cons of inflicting punishment on children as a form of dealing with indiscipline. And one thing, and an important one aspect that we have to put in consideration, is that we must understand that there are many ways of punishing a child or children, depending with several factors, okay? And one of them would be age, and another one would be understanding of the child, or the specific and particular child that you are dealing with, okay? In age, the way you would discipline the children who are at the age of 0 to 3 years is different from how you punish the 5, 6, 7 to 8 years, and the way you'd punish 9 to 12, and the way now you'll punish, you'll come up with a punishment that will work for the teenagers, and the punishment that will work for the ones that are leaving teenagehood and getting into young adulthood. The punishments would vary from various age groups to different factors, all right? And so we must understand that when we are choosing a form of punishment, we must consider the ages, all right? And so another consideration that we put in place is the understanding of the child, okay? As we said, when we talked about communication, the understanding of children also varies and is different, okay, from the other, okay? And so children are different and unique in their own ways. And so you cannot choose a blanket punishment for all your children in the house because the way they will react to the forms of punishment will be totally different because they're different, okay? And so you should need to consider the understanding of the child, all right, of the child that you're dealing with, and the kind of punishment that you're choosing for a specific and particular child, differently and separately. As I said, that when dealing with children, you deal with them separately, separate human beings, separate people, different people, built and made differently, all right? And so another thing is also gender. The kind of punishments that you give to a boy must be, I believe, and I think it is true, must be very different from the ones, not very different, but should be different from the ones you give to girls, because their mistakes will not be the same in some cases, or in most cases. The kind of indiscipline scenarios that you're dealing with would be different. During sometimes they they collaborate to do some mistakes, and because they're siblings and they are growing up together and they're friends, they collaborate to do same mistakes, okay? So at some point the punishment would be the same, would be uniform. But in some cases, you have also to consider the genders when you're choosing the form of punishment that you want to use. Another thing that you'd consider is culture background and the traditions. Okay, as I said about the interracial marriages, people emerging to marry from different places, Africans marrying Asians, Asians marrying Europeans, Europeans marrying Americans, Americans marrying Africans, and it's everywhere, everyone marrying everybody. If you ask me, I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is, and that is how it is. And so we are bringing up children in households where cultures and traditions are different. Mom believes in different things from what daddy believes in, and so we have the grandmas and the grandpas and uncles and aunts. And if you're not careful with the kind and the form of punishments that we choose for these young people, they get caught up in how we want to do it. Because if I am born in Africa, for example, my spouse is from America, or then the way we reason, the cultures would be different of how the kind of punishment that I would think I want to give to my son or to my girl, okay? And so we also must consider the cultures and the traditions, and also people have traveled, and people are in different places, and so the punishments also will depend with where you are living, where you are at as a family, okay? So that would also influence the cultures and the diversity in cultural beliefs and cultural behaviors, okay? Yeah, and so on that, we also have to uh, you know consider several factors before we say that this child deserves a punishment, okay? The form of punishment that you choose has two things. So two, the second thing that we should consider is the negative effects that the form of punishment that you choose may have, the potential negative effects that the punishment that you choose may have on this particular child, or the potential benefits that the particular punishment that you choose may have on this particular child. All right? I don't know whether we are together. When choosing, you have decided and talked about the punishment that you want to inflict on this boy, on this girl. Then you should consider the potential negative effects and the potential positive effects that you may have on this child. Okay? So I will start with the negative ones, the negative effects of inflicting punishment on children. So one of them that you should consider is the emotional trauma. Physical or emotional punishment can lead to anxiety, fear, and low self-esteem in children. Okay? For example, when you're always opting to beating, the African way is that children learn through pain. We learn through pain. And so if you want an African to understand something, I don't know where that came from, an African child to understand something, you must put pain so that they remember. You either give a spank, you pinch, or you give strokes. And so the millennials, the African millennials, we understand that very well, how we were really beaten, not just spanking. Spanking wouldn't work, as they believed that an African child, if it's pain, then it has to be really pain and lots of pain, okay? So that the next time you want to do the mistake that you're doing, you remember how painful it was when you did it, and how beaten, the pain, you still remember. So if it is a pinching, okay, it is a real pinching that leaves even a scar that will always be looking and say, the other time I did like this, and this is what I got out of talking to an elder like this, or sitting where visitors were. And so, yeah, that's how it was, and that's how it has unfortunately remained in many, if not all. The ones that are changing that are the ones in the modern settlements, the ones in the cities. But in the villages, unfortunately, the corporal punishment, the physical punishment is still so much, all right? And so different governments and different authorities, you see, they have written laws and concerning that corporal punishment is not allowed in schools, is not allowed in physical punishment, but it's never implemented. And so we still see And I've gone to many schools. I do a lot of missionary work in schools, and I have seen several scenarios of where children, are going through. The parents will not say it's abuse, but it is actually abuse. The physical abuse in form of inflicting punishment to discipline children. And so we have to understand that the emotional and the physical punishment causes anxiety and fear. A child who is constantly beaten or constantly abused, I would use that word, okay, lives in fear. This is a child that will not even perform well at school. This is a child that will not freely express themselves. This is a child who even get confused, is always anxious because they don't even know what, they're always anticipating of some pain or something, because they're fearful. So you end up putting more fear in them than actually getting the result that you wanted. The emotional punishment is through words. As parents, the words that we speak to our children and over our children have power in a way that we cannot even start to explain how much. All right? Words have power. The way we believe that words can have power on us, words have power on our children. And so whatever we say and speak upon them, if we always say, you weakling, you mannerless, I'm telling you, if you continue, you always say that, then it actually becomes true. And that is emotional abuse. It is emotional punishment that doesn't settle well. It causes fear, it causes anxiety, and it may work for short term at that time when you're telling that child that. But in the long term, it has a lot of negative effects on that child. A child who is constantly told, you are a good for nothing, you're a good for nothing child, you'll grow up. If someone doesn't correct that in the future, that will always be ringing in their minds, and those words will always play and autoplay in their minds over and over again. So when they try to do something, they will always say no, but maybe, and if they fail, they say, maybe it is true, because when I was growing up, they kept telling me I was gonna add up to nothing, I was good at nothing, I would do nothing. And so physical and emotional punishment may have short-term results, but long-term effects on our children. Okay? And so mom, dad, you must be very, very careful when you choose the form of punishment that you choose and want to use on your child. Another effect that I would also want to point out on punishment, on inflicting punishment on our children, is the aggression. Punishment can model aggressive behavior, leading to children adopting the similar behaviors. They'll say, okay, I'll do it, and I'll be punished, or I'll be told whatever it is that I'll be told, and that's it. And so they'll get immune to the kind of punishment that you give, and or to the words that you'll say, because they know that mommy will say this or daddy will quarrel and call me a good for nothing boy, or mommy will come beat me, give me a slap or pinch me, and that's it. So that may lead to aggression, okay, of repeating the similar behavior and continuing with it, because they know the same thing will happen. All right. What you don't know that you are putting this aggressiveness in them, because also you have an aggressive behavior, unfortunately. Okay. So another effect on children is decreased self-confidence. Harsh punishment can make children feel inadequate or unworthy. When the punishment is overboard, because sometimes we do an overboard punishment, and this goes a long way with them into adulthood. Okay? So, as I said, the emotional punishment, especially. Sometimes you may think, physical punishment is something that we can see, they can see. There's an evidence of the punishment. But the emotional punishment is internal. It's not seen as outside, but it comes from the inside and then shows into the outside. And unfortunately, we do this without realizing the effects of how serious and dangerous this is to them. And it's the feeling of inadequate is a feeling that even as adults, it's not a nice feeling. For example, if you work, you are employed, and you have this boss who constantly never considers what you do as important, like they see you as just a liability. Okay, like you are there, and your presence doesn't matter that much, and so that feeling does something inside of you. And so when we continue inflicting some of this punishment on them, that is what we are also making them become inadequate. All right. And so an alternative to punishment would be, because we don't have to all the time punish, okay? But I'm not saying we don't punish. But as I said, we have to choose wisely the kind of punishment that we give. Different age, understanding of the child, the culture and the traditions from where we are at, where we're going to, and where we are from. Okay, so it varies from one aspect to the other. And so the alternative to punishment would be positive reinforcement. An African mom or an African dad may not agree with me, but it works. It actually works. And in this 21st century, we must try. African parents, this is for us. We must try. Things have changed. Children have changed too. You have changed as well. You are not what your mother brought you up to be. You are not what your dad brought you up to be. All the punishments that you are given when you are growing up, if you sat down and did analysis of how much positive they affected your life, I don't know if we ever sit down to do that. That the denial for food, that you are denied the food that you are denied to eat because you did one mistake or the other. How did that help you? Okay, the tuition fee that your dad said, I'm not going to pay your tuition fee this time because you forgot and you did not take the cows out to graze. How did that help you? Okay, the punishment that you're given because you failed to, I don't know, crazy stuff, crazy kind of punishments that when we were given as millennials, we were given when we were growing up. Do we sit down and analyze them and see how much they have helped us, or how much damage they have caused to us emotionally, if not physically, more emotionally? Because our parents, I think they were smart. Most of them were smart, or it was just out of the mercies of the Almighty that not many of us have like evident marks on our bodies to show how much we were beaten. Some of us were beaten so much, so much. I am one of them. I was like almost beaten every day because I was a very fast kid. I was very fast. I talked fast. I did everything very fast. I was where I wasn't supposed to be. I was saying what I was maybe not supposed to say. I was I was very fast. Me and my one of my brothers, and so um, we were really beaten. Okay, we were really beaten, and I remember I remember that there's some punishment that I was given as a person. For example, like I bedwetted for some time, for quite a long time. Okay, so this is something that I don't know why I am bedwetting. I don't know why I sleep and pee on my beddings. I don't know. And there was some crazy punishment that I received for that. All right. And so this almost took away my self-esteem. I tried hiding it because I am a happy person. I am a happy soul. I laugh most of the times. I am I always refuse not to laugh. So I laugh. I'm a joyful person. That's a gift that I've been given, and I really appreciate. And I'm really grateful that I have that gift. That I look for something to make me happy when other things want to make me sad. So most of the times I would laugh, but inside I was dying. I didn't know what to do to stop bedwetting. I didn't know what to do, honestly. But some of the punishments were crazy. Very, very crazy. They made me feel lonely. They made me feel sad. I cried. They were crazy, okay? And since that is how we were brought up, and you didn't have to question, and you could not have a communication with your parents, you accepted the form of punishment that you were given, all right? And so in the 21st century, and as millennials, and it's not just me, I have spoken to many others of my age, of older than me, and um, uh, to that effect, some of us are over permissive because we don't want to do to our children what was done to us. Like myself, I remember I said, I'm not going to be beating my children because I went through the corporal punishment so bad, so much. I became a teenager. I had not lived with my dad. And so as a teenager, I went and I was living with my dad. And he had not lived with a teenager before. And it was our first time. I was first time living with my dad as a teenager. It was my first time being a teenager. It was his first time being a teenage dad. And he wanted to bring me up in the ways of how he was brought up, to be straight. You had to keep time. It doesn't matter if there was traffic, if you had some tuition back at school and you had to arrive home late. So the beating continued. So I was really beaten also as a teenager. And um, this is what I was talking about earlier. So some of this punishments, causes aggressiveness and aggression and aggressive behaviors in the children, in us. And so as you sit down and analyze the form and the kind of punishment that you received as a child, you should and need to ask yourself, how are they affecting my life? Is it positively? Is it negatively? Is it in a nice way or a bad way? Or you don't even understand? Because I want to assume and I want to hope and believe that if you're parenting now, then there is a lot of information everywhere, including how you are also brought up, of how you can, decide on the kind of children that you want to bring up. And it's not just for them, it's for your own good as well. And so when choosing a form of punishment that you give to your children, you should really have a meeting as a family. And I said on our session on Saturday, discuss about it. Discuss it with your spouse, discuss it with the people concerned, the grandparents, whoever it is, the housemaids. Okay? Because sometimes we forget that we have the caregivers who take care of our children. And it is them that, with this time and age, most parents work. We work most of the times, and our children are brought up by other people, including the housemaids. And so the form of punishment is something that should be discussed. And that's why I said, when dealing with discipline issues and cases, communication has to be, and that's why we started our sessions from communication, effective communication in that matter. All right? Not just with the children, but with the people that are part of this parenting journey, including the housemaids, the nannies, the relatives who are going to be living in this house. Okay? Because these are children that will be growing up, not just with you. And with this time and age, most of the times, few cases that parents spend most of the time with their children. But in most cases, they spend a quality time with at school, either school or with the nannies or with others. All right? And so punishment to deal with discipline and indiscipline scenarios must be a conversation in the households. It must be talked about. It must be discussed. It must be effectively communicated about. Because if you don't deal with it,